Hey, well, welcome everybody. My name is Michelle Rapp, and I'm the Associate Director of Career Strategy in Northeastern's Office of Alumni Relations. I'm also assisted here today by my colleague, Javon Kafua, who is the Program Assistant in Alumni Relations and our resident tech wizard. For those of you that are just joining us, we'd appreciate it if you use the chat box to type in your name, graduation year, and location so we know who attended today. And just for housekeeping, the text box is where you'll be able to type comments and participate throughout the webinar today. And welcome to our first Career by Design webinar of 2017. We thought this would be a great way to start the new year. I'm so thrilled to have Rick Tamlyn joining the Northeastern community today to help us dream big in the new year. As a coach, I knew about Rick's reputation as a thought leader, coach, and presenter. And reading his book last December led me to invite him to present today's program, and it's a great book. I'd like to share a little bit about Rick. Rick Tamlyn inspires people to be their best. In 2001, he co-created The Bigger Game, a tool that inspires people from all walks of life to get out of their comfort zones and invent the lives they want. He's the author of Play Your Bigger Game, 9 Minutes to Learn, A Lifetime to Live. He is a certified professional coactive coach and a master certified coach as designated by the International Coach Federation, and also a senior trainer for the Coaches Training Institute. I so look forward to being inspired by him today and learning his bigger game approach. Thank you, Rick.
Oh, you're welcome. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Michelle, so much for that great introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm calling in from beautiful, rainy Southern California, which we're thrilled to be having. So we are getting back to playing our bigger game in Southern California with water these days. So, well, welcome to this webinar today called Play Your Bigger Game. And I just, Michelle kind of did an introduction about me. Yes, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I do all these things, a keynoter, I work with lots of groups and organizations and teams to sort of motivate them. But I want to offer a shift right out of the gate. Rather than a motivator or an inspirer, what I call myself these days is an activator of your creative genius. Because what I believe is that there's creative genius in all of us. And as a coach, and as a trainer, and as a motivator, as a keynoter, if you will, my job is to activate the greatness that's within you, because I know it's in there. And sometimes we just need a tool or a concept or an idea to activate it and get it out. So I'd love you to think about this session together, that we are going to be activating your creative thinking today in terms of the life you want to create for yourself, the job you might want to create for yourself. Because the other thing I want to offer here is this conversation, or this idea that I'm going to offer today is applicable to your personal life, to your professional life, to your work life. It's sort of across the board, and I think that'll make sense as it unfolds here. So just wanted to offer this idea, activation versus motivation is really the job. Just to make sure that you guys are in the chat room and we can have an interactive moment, let me back up for a second. I would love this to feel more interactive. I know that we can't hear each other. You can hear me, but I can't hear you. But just for a moment, just put in the chat room a word or two about where you are right now in your life, like confused, excited, scared, worried, thrilled, motivated. Just a word from some of you, just to put in the chat room, just to get a sense of kind of, what are people? Transition, great, thank you, Jack. Confused, perfect, this is great. Excited and curious and ready, thank you, Karen, this is great. Good. The reason why I'm having you all do this is the bigger game philosophy and methodology will meet you right where you are. We're always in a state, right? So this methodology and this philosophy, which I'll roll out here in a few moments, can connect with you and be with you and offer you insights from right where you are, rather than having you feel like you need to be somewhere else. That's the human condition is always voting at itself. We should be somewhere else other than where we are. And so the opening concept I want to offer you today is right where you are is perfect. Might not feel good, might be a little challenging, but the bigger game model and philosophy will enhance and work with the state in which you're in right now. So thank you for the interactive moment. So I've used some language already that I want to underline. This is a bit of some philosophy with a little bit of methodology. You're gonna see a model rolled out here in a few minutes. And but before we dive into the content, if you will, I want to offer an idea, like a big perspective on the first slide here. For those of you that are on computers, I'm making up many of you are, you can see this slide. It says 2 primary conversations are designing our life. And I've, over the years as a coach, again as a trainer, I've realized I think this is what's really behind the scenes, like behind the curtain. Is that 2 conversations are designing our life. And these 2 conversations are this: the conversation that's going on inside our own heads and the conversation that we're having with each other in life, whether it be a team or, you know, one-on-one, whatever it is. If you really look at your life, it's like, what is the conversation I'm having with myself, and what's the primary conversation I'm having with other people in my life? Now, this is the foundation of being a good coach for other people, because it's in the conversation that we get clarity, and we start to reveal the genius and the creativity that wants to come out of us to move us to the next level. So I know this can be a bit simplistic, but I'm inviting you to think about this. You know, what are the conversations I'm in right now with myself, and what are the conversations I'm in with my life? And I was thrilled that when Michelle asked me to do this with all of you, that this was the opening of your year. It was the big question to kind of throw into the space here in January with ourselves is, are we going to play a bigger game this year? Are we going to be in that conversation in ourselves and with other people? Or are we going to be in the same game conversation? Now, these are very simple questions, but you know, the railroad track here on the metaphor of the picture is like, you know, the conversation is going to take me in a direction. And so what is the primary conversation I'm having? That's like the backdrop of why bigger game works, because the bigger game starts to point us in the direction of a bigger conversation. Because again, our life is being designed by the conversations we're having. And a pause moment. Anytime I offer an idea or a perspective and it activates your creative thinking, or you have a question about it, please drop it into the chat room. Or a smiley face, or something like yay, or a cool, or just so I know. You can tell I'm a coach and I'm usually in conversation with people, so I'm looking for the moment where it feels connected. So if you have a thought or an idea or just a thumbs up or something, I'd love to have you guys drop it into the chat room. Okay, so there's the first sort of big concept. And I, again, love you to look into your life right now. What are the conversations I'm having? What are the primary conversations I'm having in my own head and with other people? So with that said, this idea of having a conversation, I'm going to have us do an interactive exercise, again, the best we can inside a chat room. Just for a moment, I want you to go inside your own head, your own thoughts for a second. And I want you to, just for about 30 seconds, go to a time in your life where you did something or accomplished something that had a bit of courage attached to it possibly, or had you feel really proud. The outcome was, wow, I did that. Like, that's amazing. Whether it be getting a degree, whether it be you were a kid and you won an award, any time in your life, just find that memory and that proud moment for a second. Good. Something comes to mind. We have lots of these things. We go through life so fast we don't even notice them half the time. Now the key question, and this is the interactive part I'd love you to write in the chat room. Thank you, Mary. Is to, in a word or two or a short sentence, who are you today as a result of this proud moment? There's method to my madness with this question. It's going somewhere, I promise. But this is the key question. Who are you today as a result of this? I'd love you to start to point your, thank you, by the way, for the chatting. Brilliant. Passed the bar, negotiating my title, started my own business. Now, start to go to who are you today as a result of this? And I'll offer your own thoughts. Yeah, not afraid of change or challenge. Perfect. Thanks, Mary. You became a strategic leader. Perfect. Other answers, moving to Italy, complete my master's, more confident. Exactly. I love when I hear that one. I want to underline this confident one for a second that many of you were speaking to. So many of us are actually looking for courage and looking for confidence. The paradox is when we go look for it, it's not there. It's not like something you can go just get. The concept I want to introduce you to is when you're up to something bigger than you know how to do, and you actually accomplish it, or you have some sort of outcome from it, then all of a sudden confidence is the result. And more professional, yeah, many of you are writing great words here about who you've become. And that's kind of, again, a key concept for playing a bigger game. When you go off and start to play a bigger game, you will become something for the sake of it, grander than you knew you could even become. This is a little counterintuitive because many of us are focusing on personal development and personal growth, which is a lovely place to look in life. But I'm offering that the doorway to our personal growth and to our personal development and to our leadership development is go play a bigger game with your life, and I guarantee you, you will be developed for the sake of it. I want to underline that concept. We will become something for the sake of something that we're so compelled by. We'll develop skills, we'll develop confidence, we'll develop creativity. All those things we want to become will come out of us because we're playing a bigger game. So I'd love to have a moment where you guys just, like, does that make sense? The focus is on the game, if you will, that I want to play with my life, and now look who I've become. Makes sense. Somebody just do like a yes. Okay, good. Thank you, Karen. And I'll give you just a little segue. Thank you guys so much. Oh my gosh, I love the chat moments. You can tell. You guys, the interactive part is so helpful for me. I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I'm usually in rooms where people are talking. So you can only find out what you're capable of when you put yourself out there and try new things. Exactly, Amy. That's the whole point. And the bigger game model, which I'm going to roll out here in a few minutes, will start to point you in that direction. Of what is that thing that I'm so compelled by that I don't know how to do, which is a key component of playing a bigger game. But look who I'm becoming for the sake of it. Now, this next slide is where this really came from. A co-player of mine, a peer of mine, and I invented this model in 2001 together from the Coaches Training Institute. But the philosophy came from when I was a little kid. I didn't know it at the time. You look back in your life and you realize, oh, there's where this was really birthed. So this picture, a little embarrassing, it's really out of focus. And by the way, there was a flood coming that day, my mom told me. And the picture is me about 2 years or 3 years after this. I became youth group president of my church. And the reason why I'm telling you this is that the minister asked me at the beginning of the year, the beginning of the fall, like the school year, and said, what do you want your year to be about as the president of the youth group? And I don't know where this came from in me, but I said to him, I just don't want it to be the same as we've always done every other year. I just, this is, by the way, the 70s, right? This is what back when. And he said, well, let's kind of make something up. Anyway, the bottom line of this story is we came up with an idea. Let's take the entire youth group to the challenging part of our country and rebuild homes and help this area of our country who really needs some help. It was an area that the church had been sending missionary money. And we decided, let's not send the money, let's actually go there. I mean, again, this is in the 70s. This is 35 kids, and the goal was to go there in the spring. This is now September. Again, the reason why I'm telling you this, it was an example of a bigger game. It feels sort of obvious, but it became a big project. Now, we got busy. We had bake sales now for the cause of this bigger game. We had, all kinds of other people want to get involved. Other churches got involved. It became huge. I won't go into the details. But we go down into Annville, Kentucky, which is this area, and we did this remarkable work together with these people. It was a transformational experience, as you can well imagine, for these kids and myself. And I come back, and the minister asked me to give the sermon. I'm 16 years old. I give the sermon to the church about this event, and the concept here. I became something that I didn't even know could become, because of this quote-unquote bigger game. I'm on the stage speaking, became a fundraiser, became a leader, became a negotiator, all these things that I knew that someday I wanted to get in touch with and become better at. All of a sudden I became better at them very quickly because I started to play a bigger game. Again, one could call it a big project, but I'm going to double click on bigger game in a minute to give you guys a sort of a broader sense of what that really means. So again, concept is playing a bigger game will create who we want to become. We all want to become something more. We all want to experience something more with life. And I can guarantee you, when you start to step into that thing that you want to create with your life that's bigger than you, you will become something amazing for the sake of it. Another short story of another example of this. Sometimes a bigger game, you choose it, and sometimes a bigger game comes into your life just because. Like this is a circumstance that shows up. An example in my family system, my brother 32 years ago, diagnosed with bone marrow cancer, horrific diagnosis. You've got 3 months to live, go home and get your life in order. This was Christmas Eve, 32 years ago, and I'll never forget it. I watched my mother sort of develop into an amazingly strong, powerful, courageous leader. You could feel the essence of her. Really, the energy coming off of her was not on my watch, is my son going to die? And she went off and found different doctors, and won't go again into the long story. But he's alive and well today. He's been written up in medical journals because they reinvented chemotherapy that had never been done before. So there's an example of a bigger game sort of came into our life. My mother became this amazingly powerful force to be reckoned with. Now, it's not a bigger game you would choose ever, but it is an example of the playing a bigger game will create who we want to become. So again, there's the philosophy that I want you to keep thinking about, for your own life. Rather than what's the career I want, which is a very different question. I don't really do career coaching. I do bigger game creating when I talk to my clients and work with teams. So, good. And there's a question from Christine. Nice example. Thanks for sharing. How are you evaluating risks and decisions in playing your bigger game? Christine, hold on to that question. As this model rolls out, I think it will be answered for you. If it's not, please just type in again and go, I'm going to ask that again. Because risks are absolutely a part of playing a bigger game. Of course. Here's the truth these days. Everything is a risk. So what's our relationship to risk becomes the question. Am I risk averse, which can become a comfort zone for me? I'm so risk averse, I'm never going to move forward. So the language I want to offer you right now, Christine, which will come out even more as we unfold this, is, risk aversion can be a comfort zone for some of us. And it's time to step out of that comfort zone. And I'm going to give you the tool in a minute to how you do that. So thank you for the question. More to come. Let's kind of dive into this. So I want to make another big distinction, which is very antithetical to our culture. We are a goals culture. We are a goals country. My clients, they talk to me and I have goals I want to reach, that whole thing. And I have, over the years, realized that personally for me and for many people, goals are not that motivating. Because here's what's happening in our culture. This is sort of good news and bad news, a little bit of the shadow side of goals. If you think an organization, I do a lot of team building work and a lot of teamwork inside organizations. As soon as you reach the goal, if you're given a goal, as soon as you reach the goal, what comes at us next? A bigger goal. So unto itself, goals become a comfort zone that become demotivating. Because the backdrop of this entire conversation, which is a kind of a downer thing to name, but more is better, is the comfort zone of the world. More money, fill in the blank, more. I'm not suggesting that's a bad thing, but I'm daring to point out that goals are not the motivation as much as they used to be. And the distinction I want to offer here is, excuse me, on the left, you see this graphic here on the left side, you're the bigger game player at the bottom here, by the way. Focus on the game and then the goals will result, rather than focusing on the goals. The goals are the outcome of the game. For example, I hear a lot, I want to become more confident. That's a goal. And I say, great, what's the bigger game you want to play with your life? What's the bigger game you want to play this year or this quarter, whatever it is? And I can guarantee you, you're compelled by it, and it's got your heart and your soul, you will become confident for the sake of that game. So it's a different way to look at life. It's a different way to look at how to become something more. So bigger game focus is really the slide here, right? Am I focusing on my bigger game, or am I just talking about goals? Now, this is obvious. I mean, the number one goal in most conversations with everyone these days inside almost every organization is more money, right? It's just we want, double our profits. You just fill in the blank. Everybody is focused on that. It's okay. That's the way the world works. I'm not suggesting it's a bad thing, but it's not unto itself, it becomes demotivating. So again, I start to shift the conversation to an organization or a team, and I just did one recently. I said, okay, what's the bigger game you all really want to play, with yourselves as a team? Because they're sitting around talking the same comfort zone language of how do we make more money. And unto itself, it's not a very motivating conversation. You can just feel it in the room. So more bigger game focus rather than more goal focus. Again, very antithetical. This is when I say this into a room or do this at a keynote at a conference, people are like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're telling me not to focus on goals? I'm saying no, the way to the goal is to play a bigger game. So the greatest example of this, I want to give this slide I forgot. This is an example or a phrase that goes with this idea. If you focus on results, you'll never change. If you focus on the change, i.e. the bigger game, you'll get new results. So again, it's about the focus. It's about the type of conversation you're having. Back to the opening moment. Are you having a bigger game conversation, or are you just having another bigger goal conversation? And that is a very different conversation. It activates a very different part of our creative brains. So the greatest way to explain this is to talk about the largest company in the world who got this idea a number of years ago when they were almost bankrupt. So the bottom square here is Apple, right? Steve Jobs' image inside this Apple. What was it, 18 years ago or so, or not even, I think, almost bankrupt, right? Steve Jobs has been fired. The system is go sell more computers. That's the goal. Go sell more computers. It's failing miserably. Michael Dell is building computers way cheaper. Bill Gates is giving away Windows operating system practically for free. Steve Jobs realizes when he's brought back into the system, he said, we've lost that game. It's done. We know we cannot be in the computer business. We've lost. So he shifts the conversation, literally shifts the conversation. Now, from his own creative juices, he brought his own stuff that he loved into the system. He loved music. He loved art. He loved photography. He loved movie making. He brought all of his personal passion back into that system and dared to declare over time that we're actually in the entertainment business. We're not in the computer building business. Now that is a huge shift in a conversation inside a system. What was the first product that came out of that new conversation, that bigger game conversation, was the iPod. They didn't invent the music player, but they just made it better, as we all know. And we know where all this goes, right? Now they brought entertainment into our hands with the iPhone. took a number of years. There is a huge different conversation going on inside that system. Now let me be really clear here. Of course they want to make good money. Of course they want to double their profits. But the focus of the system is not about goals. I even read about it in a Steve Jobs biography, the one that he approved, so I make up it's pretty real. He literally said in meetings when he came back into the system, we will not be discussing money in these meetings. We will never be discussing money. What we're going to be discussing is the good work we're going to bring to the world through the entertainment window, if you will. So the bigger game inside that system was really moved away from goal setting and how to survive and how to make money, and pointed itself in a different direction. In my language, pointed itself in the bigger game direction of becoming an entertainment company, which is really what they are. Now, it's fascinating to watch. Who else is doing this? Amazon. Amazon started out in the, selling stuff online business. Now they're going into the TV business. They're actually producing television shows. They're up for Emmy Awards this year. It's fascinating to watch the shift of what an individual can do, what an organization can do when it starts to shift its focus, if you will. And in my language, play a bigger game. So the upper left square here, bigger game, we're going to pretend like we're going to double click on that. We're going to get into the content here of the bigger game model, which is this. First of all, it is literally a game board, and it looks like a tic-tac-toe board. We modeled it after tic-tac-toe on purpose, so it could feel playful, could feel fun, could feel easy. Now, as I roll this out and explain this, you're going to understand this, and it's going to be completely obvious. This is not complicated. It's almost simplistic, but yet in its simplicity, what I'm hoping it's going to activate your creativity, because simplicity is the way to activating our creativity. So these concepts, you're going to understand them. You've heard them before, but putting them into a construct of a game board possibly might be new. So one more thing about the game board. Tic-tac-toe, easy to play. First of all, it's not linear. You put a piece down in a square, an X or an O, and then all of a sudden it starts to unfold and you realize, well, now I need to put a piece over here. So in the beginning, it's a bit random, but as you play tic-tac-toe, it starts to become clearer about the strategy that needs to unfold. Very similar to this. It's 9 squares, 9 ideas, 9 elements that are a part of playing a bigger game. And I'm going to walk you through them and offer you some distinctions inside this. And by the way, just so you know, at the end of this call, I'm going to offer you a place where you can download a white paper that explains all that I'm talking about. So if you're taking a lot of notes and you're trying to capture it all, I invite you to let it go. I'm going to offer you something you can download for free. So bigger game, here we go. 9 squares. I'm going to start on the upper middle square, hunger. Now, the word is hunger, the word is not want. But of course, human beings want stuff. We all want. We chose the word hunger because it's deeper. It's in sort of the belly, if you will, of a person. It's the fire in the belly energy of what must be in my world or in the world or in my life. And I dare say, after working with thousands of people one-on-one and hundreds of organizations, we don't let ourselves really, really hunger for something, whatever it might be, because what we want to avoid is disappointment if we don't get it. Because if I don't get the thing that I'm really wanting for my family or my system or my company or my life, if I don't really get it, then I'm going to have to be with disappointment, and that's probably the number one emotion that many of us want to avoid is disappointment. We can be mad, sad, glad, pissed off, upset. We've got all those other ones handled, but to be disappointed is hugely challenging. So many times in the bigger game workshop, we spend a lot of energy and time, like, what do you really hunger for? Without knowing how to make it real. That's the key part. Without knowing how to make it real. Because many of us get stopped as, well, I don't know how, and so therefore I won't. So that's hunger. And, I could wish, if we had a 2-day workshop going on here, we'd spend some time and you guys would talk about, what do I really hunger for? What are the qualities of life that I'm wanting to experience? And what is the difference I'm really wanting to make with my life? Which starts to feed, if you will, the next square to the right, in the upper right-hand corner, which is the language called compelling purpose. Now, many of us on this call today have heard, life purpose work. I'm a big fan of life purpose work. The distinction I want to offer is every time I heard the word life purpose work, I got so terrified I had to get it right for my whole life. And I want to offer this idea that sometimes we're compelled by something right now, and in 6 months or a year, it's going to change. So compelling purpose sort of is the answer to the hunger. What's the difference I'm really wanting to make? What's the purpose? What's the behind the curtain of what I'm really about? It's not asking you what you're doing. It is asking the question, what are you really about? And again, these are pretty big, profound questions. I'm a coach. These are the type of questions that we ask. Now, just to give you an example, again, back to the Steve Jobs moment, I think that guy got really in touch with his compelling purpose. It was really about to bring the arts back into the world through technology. He was really an artist at his core, and he happened to like technology and computers, but that was really the compelling purpose behind him. And the game he played is to do it through technology, and we know how it all plays out. So hunger, compelling purpose, I'm going to go to the left. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. So I want to have an interactive moment with you all. Upper left square, comfort zones. We all know this term. But I want to broaden it for a second, offer you a wider perspective. Comfort zones are the things we do and think that either serve us or do not serve us. So they're not bad or wrong. There's no judgment in having a comfort zone. We all brush our teeth every day. That's a comfort zone. That's a classic example of a doing comfort zone that serves us. So I want to make sure we take off the judgment of comfort zones are bad. But it does ask us to reflect, what am I doing? What am I doing that's either serving my bigger game or not? Am I over worrying? Am I not asking for help? Am I, obsessing about something? Am I going to the gym and taking care of myself? All kinds of questions inside the comfort zone square. And back to Christine, to your early point earlier about risk. Risk is a great question to ask inside the comfort zone square. What's my relationship to risk? Do I have a comfort zone called aversion or a risk aversion? Because many of us do. And the place to go, by the way, if you want to leave a comfort zone, is to go over to compelling purpose. What's my compelling purpose? And is my compelling purpose compelling enough to pull me out of my comfort zone? Because I got to tell you, when you get that sort of flywheel going of a compelling purpose, you will change, you will leave comfort zones for the sake of something. Like, again, my mother was the example of my brother. She was compelled, right? My son will live. She was doing things and changing diets. There's all kinds of stuff happening. So I think the other big comfort zone that many of us get caught in is we try to change, but we don't have a good enough reason to change. And then we're judging ourselves that we're not changing, which is just another comfort zone. So compelling purpose becomes the doorway into, or the antidote to a comfort zone that we want to leave. And again, this is all personal. We all have to find this for ourselves. So that's the comfort zone square. Lots of conversation inside of there. You could spend three days in that conversation. So now I want to go to the square underneath compelling purpose. A very fancy term called gulp. What it means is it's a borrowed term from that sensation or that state of, oh my gosh, I want this, I'm hungry for this, I'm compelled by this, but I don't think I can, or it's too big, or it's too hard. It's the state of excitement and fear at the same time. And we noticed the person that I invented this with, we noticed this in people who, when they had a big enough gulp, when the game was sort of in a place of wow, this is exciting, but I'm a little terrified, it motivated them even more. So again, the question becomes, is there a big enough gulp with the game I'm playing? Or is it business as usual? There's no judgment, it's just an assessment moment. Is there a big enough gulp? For example, I'll keep using myself as an example, bringing bigger game to the world was a gulp. It was a philosophy, it's an idea, it's a model. The comfort zone of, oh my gosh, it's simple, or oh, it's already been done, or there's already books out there like it. I mean, you could just throw it all over the place. And I kept getting compelled. I kept sharing the idea. People would remind me, no, this needs to be a book, you know, which activates another square called allies. There was a big enough gulp that I want this thing in the world. I want to motivate. I want to activate people. So that is my compelling purpose, by the way, to activate people's creative geniuses. That is my compelling purpose. And so when the going gets tough, that's the place to go, back to the compelling purpose. So gulp, simple question. Is there that sense of excitement and fear at the same time? Going down to investment. This is not complicated. What do I need to invest in to make this real? Do I need to write a book? Do I need to create a blog? Do I need to do a video series? Do I need to ask for more money? Do I need to take better care of myself, by the way? Especially this time of year in January, I think the number one investment for many of us is to take better care of ourselves. I think that's a huge piece that's missing. So investment straightforward, because if I'm not investing in the game, I'm just thinking about it, which for many of us is a comfort zone. I'm thinking about that bigger game, or I'm thinking about that thing one more time. And what happens is I get off course and days go by, and you know, we all know the drift, right? That's the comfort zone called the drift. Investment. Invest in you, invest in the game. Money, time, energy, learning new skills. A friend of mine recently, very compelled by learning Spanish because he wanted to bring some training into Spanish-speaking countries. So invest in Spanish-speaking because that was his thing. So you get the idea. Not complicated. The question becomes, am I really investing in this game? So I do want to offer one other idea inside this square. Here's how I know it works. As soon as I start to invest in it, I'm sending energy into my world. I'm sending energy even into the universe, if you will, that I'm really in this game. I'm really a player in it. I am giving it life. I am giving it meaning. I am giving it time. I'm giving it energy. And as soon as I do that, you'd be amazed what starts to come back your way. But until I'm really invested in it, I'm just, again, a good idea. And the universe kind of looks at me and goes, well, you're just a good idea. It just mirrors back to me, good idea, or am I really a player in it? So again, a very simple idea, but it does beg the question, how invested am I in this? Now I'm going to go to allies, bottom middle square. Here's the cool thing about playing a bigger game. You cannot do it alone. You just can't. We can't really do anything alone, truth be told. And I want to offer a really wide perspective of allies. Imagine it's on a continuum. And on the right side of the continuum is a person who says to you, I am wildly engaged with your bigger game. I want to become a co-player in it. I sign up with you. Let's do this together. That's the co-player, right? Love your thing, want to help. Oh my gosh, I'm in. All the way on the other side of the continuum is the person who thinks you're out of your mind and you're crazy. This will never work. Because by the way, sidebar moment, as soon as you start to play a bigger game, you're going to get a lot of opinions coming at you about how it's going to work or how it's not going to work or how crazy you are. But I want to offer that everybody on that continuum of this is amazing all the way over to this is crazy, they're all allies. Because I would love for some of us to understand how many of us are motivated by the no. My mom, when she was told that her son was going to die in 3 months, was motivated by the no. I will not let that happen. So I'm inviting you into a perspective that everyone that you come in contact with is an ally, because it's either activating your, go for it, like they're saying go for it, or They're saying you're crazy, and it might motivate you. Or it might be feedback for you that you're not effective in your communication of this thing you want to create, possibly. So it opens up all kinds of doors. I also want to offer allies, by the way, are spiritual practices. Could be animals or pets that you have in your life. How many of us on this call are sort of calmed down? We go for a walk with our dog. Nature is an ally for many of us. So there's lots of room inside the square. And the question becomes, am I letting these allies come into my life more? Or am I spending enough time with these allies in my life? The nature one is a great example. So many of us are motivated by nature. And yet there's that classic comfort zone. Well, I'll get to that on the weekend or when I can get back to nature. Instead of like, you know what, I'm going for a walk today. I'm going to refresh myself. Really ally again with nature and what's the information that nature can give me today. Because for many of us, spending time in nature rejuvenates us and pulls us back into the game. So allies is a very broad context. Sustainability. I'm just noticing the time. Oh my gosh, I want 4 more hours with you guys. Because I want to turn it into a workshop, of course. Sustainability. Very simple idea. This is about designing the game that it could go on without you, if it wanted. Classic example of this is Mothers Against Drunk Driving, an amazing global organization created out of a tragedy. 2 women, co-players, both lost their children in a drunk driving accident, and they said, we have to do something about this. Now, I could ask all of you on this call today, do you know their names? Most rooms I ask, most people don't know their names. It does not matter. The game has now been designed in a sustainable way that it can go on. And so as you're starting to play a bigger game, you do want to look into this tunnel of like, well, this is good work and it's having this positive impact. How do I design it that it can go on without me? Because either I'm going to take a break from it someday, retire, or I'm not going to be on the planet eventually. So it does beg the question, how can I look at this through the lens of sustainability? Now, the second part of the sustainability square is you, the player. When I work with executives and leaders, I talk a lot about this. A lot about the square with them. Are you taking good care of yourself? Are you eating right? Are you working out? Is your financial life in order? For those of you that do personal coaching or have heard about personal coaching, this is very much in this square. How are you doing? And, let's step back and reflect, what do you need to do to take care of yourself better? Financially, spiritually, emotionally, career-wise, whatever it is. So sustainability, 2 parts. How are you doing, the player? And how is the game going in a long-term perspective? Can you design it in a way it could go on without you? Next square, assess. I'm moving up. Middle square, left row. Simple question. Assess. How's it going? It doesn't say vote or judge. It just says, how's this going? Am I still motivated? Am I still compelled? Am I in the game? Am I asking for help? Am I in a comfort zone? Because again, the backdrop of this whole thing is the conversation we're having in our life is moving us in a direction. So the assess square is a really reflective moment. How's it going? Without any judgment. That's the key part. So I'm going to go to bold action for a second. Middle square. It's in the middle for a reason. Without bold action, many of us are just living in a nice conversation in our heads or having another conversation with another person about this thing we really want to do with our lives. So sometimes it's about playing your bigger game, the bold action, and sometimes it's just about you needing to do something to sort of jolt yourself out. Recently, here's a classic example. It has nothing to do with my bigger game per se, but it has a lot to do with me. This is a bold action. I'm 58 years old. Kind of go to the gym and do mediocre workouts, barely. You know how that sort of meandering walk around the gym thing that many of us get caught in. And I had to up the game about taking care of myself. So I joined a CrossFit class. That's a huge bold action. You got these major sort of people in there who can do CrossFit like nobody's business, and they're competitors. And, I'm the oldest guy in the class, but it's become an amazingly sort of part of my bigger game because it's keeping me sustainable. It's getting me into shape way faster. The allies that come out of that conversation or out of that experience are amazing. They're championing me. Again, it doesn't have anything to do with my bigger game per se, although it might in the future, because I think we need to take better care of ourselves. But it is an example of a bold action that sort of jolted me out of business as usual. I needed something to really sort of get it going again. So there's the 9 squares. Not complicated. I know as I explained this to all of you, you all go, I know you're nodding your heads going, yeah, I understand that. Now here's where this becomes very real. And I know we don't have a lot of time left. But what I want you to think about is, where are you on this game board right now? Because you are somewhere all the time on this game board. You're hungry for something to be different. You're in a comfort zone that's serving you, or it's not. You have a compelling purpose, but you don't know how to make it into a bigger game. Or you don't have a compelling purpose. You're just going through life dealing with your circumstances, which is just fine, by the way. There's no better place to be. So what I would love for some of you to do, if you're willing, is to do a chat room moment. This is where it gets hopefully more interactive. Where are you? Use the language of the bigger game board and a little bit of a why, like a sentence or two, what's going on. Just to have you guys sort of say, where are you right now? Typing would be good right about now if you're willing. So again, places to look. I need help. I need allies, and I'm not asking for them. I need to invest in myself better, et cetera, et cetera. Comfort zone, gulp. Yeah, Rhonda, like a sentence like, I'm in a comfort zone, I'm serving me, trying to get focused. Yeah. So let me just offer, again, these are not coaching conversations, right? I'm just going to offer insights to what people are writing. A comfort zone on serving me, trying to get focused. Fascinating, Christine. A place to look is just notice, just trying to get focused can become a comfort zone. And probably in the background is a little bit of, I'm not focused, so there's a problem with me, or something. So the cool thing is to just take a look at, okay, well, what am I compelled by? Let that square drive the conversation rather than the self-judgment square, because so many of us have that square going on, the comfort zone of self-judgment. So hunger, thank you. Other answers, by the way. And again, the place to think about this is, or a way to think about this is, you're on this game board all the time. 19 days from ending a 3-year stint at the same company and trying to determine when I grow up. Exactly. Thank you, Kevin. Classic example of what do I want to do when I grow up. And I want to make this just, thank you, Martin. 20 years working on my career, content side, wanting to take a leap. Yeah. Become certified allies, helping to make inroads, passing over maybe great. How's it going? I'm in a year, right. Hunger, I'm in an end goal in mind, but I'm struggling to make it reality. Yeah, good. Lena, just a thought. End goal is interesting. Remember how I talked about earlier the goal conversation? I just want to offer this distinction, Lena. We all have this sort of, goal in mind. When I reach this amount of money, or there's some sort of goal to reach that will finally give me the freedom I'm looking for, which for many of us is a comfort zone. And I've talked to literally hundreds of people who they got the goal and the freedom wasn't really there. And I'm not saying that won't happen for many of us, but I want to offer this rather than what's the end goal? It's just interesting language. It's like, what's the game I want to play with the rest of my life? Because that keeps me engaged until my final breath. There's also, I'm talking to a lot of people these days who are quote unquote in the retirement conversation, and they realize they're not done. They don't want to retire. They want to refire up their life into something that matters to them, which I bet is many of you possibly on this call. So, yeah, Jim, left comfort zone with bold action, leaving job, working to identify true hunger, purpose. Absolutely. And here's some tips. I want to offer tips on the hunger, compelling purpose conversation. The first tip, by the way, is you must be in conversation with somebody about this, or a number of people. Is just let yourself slow down and go, what really matters to me now? And I dare say go to the qualities of the life you want to have now, rather than the outcomes that you want. Because we're all headed for a quality of life. We're all headed for more freedom. We're all headed for more creativity. We're all headed for more expression of something. But I dare say we all want to have some sort of creative expression, or some sense of, what are the values that are important to me that I really want to be honoring at this point in my life. So thank you so much for all your comments here. Just notice, I want to offer this, that just by naming where you are right now, again, I'm projecting this a little bit because I can't hear you all, but as you talked about or thought about where you are on the game board, it started to inform you on where to go next. Just notice, many times as I work with people with this, they start to talk about a comfort zone, and then automatically they start to go to, and the action I need to take is, or, you know what, I need to have a conversation, allies moment, or I need to invest. It starts to become twister very quickly. And again, the job of this game board is to activate your own internal genius about where to take yourself in your life. So I'm not a coach that has the authority and the answers for people. I am a coach that activates through this model, through these conversations, about your own inner creative genius that's in there, that just needs a guide, if you will, and the bigger game board is the guide for the conversation to point yourself in a different direction. So, there we just did this, where are you today? The second question to think about, and I know we're in a very short timetable today, but where do you want to be? First question is, where are you? And where do you want to be? Just to give you all a reference point, when I do this in the workshop version, it's a couple-day workshop, or I do a team version of this, it's a great team-orienting workshop. I ask the team, where is it today? And everybody's in different squares, and they all represent the sort of the voice of that square. And then I say, where do you want to be? And it's amazing how many of them align around where we really want to be is over here. Because again, yeah, I love it, Jung. You just said I want to be in a new comfort zone. What's really cool about that is as you start to be in a new comfort zone, it will serve you, and play with this idea, all comfort zones serve us until they don't. It becomes sort of the, oh yeah, I keep doing that same thing. And it's a constant assessment moment. Is this comfort zone serving me this year or this month or this week? So let's just notice the time. I want to offer this idea. So many of us go through life and get caught in that head conversation. Remember how I talked about there are two conversations going on. The head conversation that goes on for many of us, and it's a comfort zone, is I'm stuck. I'm confused. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where to go next. And I dare say that's the comfort zone where we need to get it right, or we need to know all the time. And I want to offer you this idea that the bigger game board offers you a moment of where I am is, I'm hungry for something to be different. I'm going to give you an example. I'm hungry for something to be different. I don't know what it is. But what I'm going to go do is go talk to a coach or go talk to an ally or go to lunch with somebody and talk out loud about this thing I might want to create with my life. And so the idea is you're never, ever stuck. You're somewhere on the game board. And as you talk about the square you're in, it informs you on the square you need to go to next. Just notice that. It's fascinating, and it starts to, again, activate that creative part of ourselves that realizes, oh, there's movement. I need to go do this, or I need to have this conversation, or I need to reflect more, or I need to go for a walk in nature. There's so many choices. Because what I'm really interested in people is to keep them in the activated creative conversation in their minds and with other people. Because that's the game I think really humans need to be in. Am I in a creative conversation with myself, or am I in a reactive, stuck conversation with myself? Because the conversations drive our experience of life. Okay, good questions. I've been around the board, but I think I missed sustainability. Let me handle that, Tom. Thank you for the question. Sustainability, two parts, very quick. You, the player. Are you taking good care of yourself? Are you eating right? How's your financial life? Because many times, an example on the financial life, many people will say, well, I want to play this bigger game, but it can't make me a living right now. And I say, got it, cool. Make sure you have a job that's putting food on the table and giving you the health insurance you need, possibly. Let's not collapse the bigger game needs to provide you a living right now. So go get that job, or go have that job going, and you're going to now play your bigger game on the edges of your work life. Weekends, evenings, that kind of thing. Because by the way, when you're compelled to play a bigger game, you'll find the time. It's amazing. You will find the time because you're compelled to go find the time. Because I'm going to now link this to this model in many different ways. The comfort zone for many of us with the work we really want to do, or the thing we really want to create with our lives, is I don't have the time. And it's such an easy place to blame. I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Number 1 and 2 answers, by the way, about that get in the way of why we don't want to create, or why we don't go in the direction we really want to go. It's so easy to blame those two. But I got to tell you, when you're compelled by something, and I know I could ask all of you this, when you're compelled by something, you will find the time. It just happens. And you don't even have to work hard at it because you're compelled, and you go figure it out. And you'll find it on the edges of your life. Good. Rob, for someone with lots of diverse interests, any tips for honing the compelling purpose? Let me offer you this idea, Rob. Your compelling purpose is about actually making sure that people and you have lots of diverse interests. That's your compelling purpose, because that's what you love. So it's an interesting paradox, but having to pick one of those would probably drive you crazy. So your good work in the world could be to help people remember or have them realize that diverse interests are a cool thing. And I want to just link it back to Steve Jobs for a second. You guys can tell I'm a bit motivated by that guy and what he created, but he had huge diverse interests all over the place, art, music, and he was able to hone them through the lens, if you will, or through the game of technology. So what I want for you, Rob, is that let go of the comfort zone that you think you're supposed to let go of all those other interests and realize that that is your compelling purpose. Diverse interests are your thing. Now, the place to look for a bigger game inside of that is, I bet there's a lot of other people that think they're supposed to focus. And you could do a training, or you could do a webinar, or you could talk about it on a blog. Like what's up with it? We have to really focus. The diverse interests are a cool thing. Now you're the voice of that. I hope that makes sense, because I can feel inside of that, the comfort zone that you got going on a little bit is I'm supposed to focus. And oh my gosh, who says? You might want to focus on the impact you want to have with your bigger game, but the focus of interests, oh my gosh, how limiting is that? So I know it's the top of the hour. I could go on and talk to you guys more. I want to just do real quick, to keep this generative conversation going, I want you guys to know that you can I'm going to offer you a free download. If you go to biggergame.com/whitepaper, biggergame.com/whitepaper, you just click on the download key. I think you have to scroll down a little bit if you're on a laptop. You just click on the download key, and it will offer you a white paper that pretty much explains what I've done here. It's sort of the cliff notes of the book. You see in this slide, I'm holding up a big version of the book. Of course, that's available on Amazon if you want to go read the book. Lots of stories inside of that, lots of examples. But if you want to sort of get this philosophy and this methodology quick, I'd love you to go to biggergame.com/whitepaper, and we'll download to you almost immediately from our technology system. The other thing I wanted to just mention is I've got a couple more slides that I'm not going to talk about. I'm traveling over the end of this month. I'm going to be in Washington, New York, Boston, and Chicago. You're seeing a slide here of the dates. If you go to the website ricktamlyn.com/an evening to remember, or you just go to my site ricktamlyn.com, I'm doing a free evening event, basically offering my philosophy that life is all made up. And inside of that philosophy, if life's all made up, then what's the bigger game I want to play with my life? So I'm coming to a city near you for an evening couple-hour session. It's free. Bring a friend. Be in these kinds of conversations, because again, the conversation we're in with ourselves and with each other is the driver of the life we're creating for ourselves. So thank you for being in the bigger game conversation. May these concepts and ideas point your life in the direction of what you want to create with your life. So thanks for listening, and
Rick, thank you so much.
You all doing your good work in the world.
From the
Thank you
Alumni
very, very much.
Relations Office. Rick, thank you for your wisdom and this very compelling and powerful game board for us to work with and explore. I think we all have a lot of homework to do beyond the 1 hour session today, but you've packed in a lot of inspiration and powerful ideas, and we're very appreciative for your joining us. Just a quick mention for those of you that are working on some career issues, and thank you to the group for your great participation. I am also available to follow up with some of you regarding some of these career questions that you're facing and be of assistance to you. We also have lots more programs coming this year, and one definite webinar coming up will be on March 1st. It'll be about being a digital nomad, working remotely internationally. We'll also have some sessions on flexible work options and salary negotiation, and we're in the process of setting dates for those. So again, thank you so much to Rick Tamlyn, and thank you all for joining us. And best wishes for the start of the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle.